Good to be with you. I'm Tony DeCopel. The breaking news right now. Chilling new details on the disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's mother. The sheriff revealing a ransom note, pointing to signs of forced entry. And the new video showing what appears to be blood outside her home as the search enters a third day with no suspect.
We don't know where she is.
The Today co-anchor calling on the power of prayer to find her mother. Also developing tonight, shots fired. An American F-35 fighter pilot takes out an Iranian drone 500 miles out to sea and approaching an American aircraft carrier. What the U.S. military is saying tonight. NASA's historic mission to the moon officially delayed. What happened and the new launch date. And Lindsey Vonn says she'll compete for Olympic gold Sunday. What she's saying about that torn ACL, her inspirational words right here tonight.
As long as there's a chance, I will try.
And a mother's impossible choice, stranded miles out to sea with her 3 children.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Tony DeCopel.
Thank you for joining us on a busy Tuesday night and all day. A wait for good news that has not come in the search for the mother of Today co-anchor Savannah Guthrie. Nancy Guthrie, 84, has been missing since the overnight hours Saturday into Sunday, abducted from her home in Arizona, according to the Pima County Sheriff's Office. The new details tonight, including blood at the house, as the authorities say they have no suspect. But what they do have, the sheriff told our Jonathan Vigliotti just moments ago, is a ransom note. Jonathan, that would be a huge development. Good evening to you.
And good evening to you. A huge development indeed. The sheriff telling me they first received that note late last night. We at CBS News have not reviewed it, but we are told it asked for a large sum of money. The FBI has been analyzing it ever since. They're taking it seriously enough at this hour that they even showed it to the Guthrie family.
Tonight, the Pima County Sheriff tells CBS News they have shared the ransom note with Savannah Guthrie and her family.
Is there anything in that note that seems credible at this moment that you're giving weight to?
The entire note. That's what I would tell you.
The entire note.
When the note comes to us, we look, it's like any piece of evidence. You give it to us. You give us a lead. We're going to look at every aspect of that lead and work it as a lead.
So you're not dismissing this note at this point.
Not.
It is potentially credible.
The sheriff says the note contained details about what 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was wearing the night of the crime. The sheriff would not confirm its authenticity. It was initially sent to a local television station in Tucson, who forwarded it to authorities. The station agreed not to report on it, but today the website TMZ was also sent a copy and went public with some of the details.
You have been trying to contain this wildfire. And then TMZ comes out with this note that you have known about, that the Guthries have now seen. And it sounds like it could compromise this case to some degree.
It could. It could. I hope not.
The search has been on for nearly 3 days with no sign of Nancy, and so far video from surveillance cameras on the property have not been helpful.
So it was on some kind of like 24-hour loop where it deleted?
It could have been a 4-hour loop. I don't know. I don't think there's any deletion, but I don't know that. It may be just taped over.
Today, our cameras captured what appears to be a small amount of blood outside the front door of Nancy Guthrie's home. And a law enforcement source tells CBS News that a little bit of blood was found inside the home. It's unclear whose blood, but authorities say it's being examined along with other clues.
You've taken her away from her home, her safest environment, and you've placed her at great jeopardy without giving her the meds that are critical to her. Again, like I say, could be fatal if she doesn't get those meds. So yes, I believe not only has she been, she's being harmed.
And the sheriff tells me they are now testing DNA evidence. They're continuing to ask for the public's help. Anyone with information is asked to call the FBI hotline on your screen. Meanwhile, the search continues for Nancy Guthrie and now the author of that note, Tony.
And Jonathan, we know you'll stay on it. Thank you very much. We're going to turn now to the Middle East and the shots fired today in the Arabian Sea. A U.S. Navy fighter jet took out an Iranian attack drone aggressively approaching an American aircraft carrier, all according to a statement from U.S. Central Command. And that wasn't the only incident today. Charlie D'Agata has late developments.
U.S. officials tell CBS News an F-35 stealth fighter jet shot down the hostile Iranian Shahed drone in the Arabian Sea, a dramatic escalation amid soaring tensions between the two countries.
It was unmanned. It was acting aggressively towards our USS Lincoln, which we know that aircraft carrier is in the region at the direction of President Trump.
The Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier is the centerpiece of a dozen warships, including multiple guided missile destroyers and squadrons of fighter jets in the massive military buildup in the region. The Pentagon said one of those destroyers in a second incident came to the aid of a U.S.-flagged oil tanker that had been threatened by two Iranian boats and a drone. The military confrontations come amid threats by President Trump to attack Iran if the regime doesn't abandon its nuclear ambitions, and following a violent crackdown last month that left thousands of protesters dead.
They are negotiating. They'd like to do something, and we'll see if something is going to be done.
Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has warned of a regional conflict if the U.S. bombs again, as it did nearly 8 months ago.
So despite what happened today, the White House said already scheduled nuclear talks with the Iranians are still going ahead as scheduled. Mideast envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to meet with Iranian officials on Friday. Tony?
All right, Charlie, thank you very much. Also today, we learned that after months of back and forth, former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will testify on camera later this month in a House investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. They had little choice in the matter, facing contempt of Congress charges had they refused. Here's Justice correspondent Scott McFarland.
More than 6 years after he died by suicide, the vortex surrounding sex offender Jeffrey Epstein is still growing. Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to sit for closed-door depositions this month with the House Oversight Committee to talk about their relationship with Epstein.
We're hopeful that they'll come in. We can ask questions I think every American and every curious reporter would have, and then we'll move on.
The former president, seen in several photos in the Epstein case files, has acknowledged flying on Epstein's jet several times, but denies knowledge of his crimes. Bill Gates is accused of affairs in the files. He denies wrongdoing, but his ex-wife today said the release dredges up painful memories.
For me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage.
Meanwhile, it's the Trump administration facing new questions.
There's one very big piece of the Department of Justice that's missing here, and it's that key word, justice.
Survivors say the Department of Justice failed to redact their personal information, identities, and photos. The brother and sister-in-law of the late Epstein survivor, Virginia Giuffre, spoke to CBS Mornings.
They didn't actively want their names being released, and they're actively being released by our DOJ, and that creates a huge safety risk for survivors out there.
And Scott, President Trump making other news from the Oval Office just a short while ago, talking about elections which are constitutionally, of course, run by the states. So he says the federal government should, quote, get involved. What does that mean?
The president has said Republicans should take over voting procedures in some states to, quote, nationalize the voting. And tonight he said it should happen when you see crooked elections. The president continues to lie about who won the 2020 election. The Constitution, as you say, says elections are overseen by state officials. And the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee says Trump is, quote, dismantling the guardrails that keep elections free and fair.
All right, Scott, thank you very much. In parts of the South, utility crews are still scrambling to restore power to tens of thousands of homes and businesses, some that have been without power for more than a week now. Katie Weiss reports tonight from Mississippi.
In Gravestown, Mississippi, volunteer firefighters dressed in plain clothes are going door to door, conducting wellness checks and delivering water and supplies to residents without power after an historic storm brought heavy snow and ice.
We're still under a boil notice.
Yes.
So we have no electricity to boil it.
It's been a long wait for James and Heather Albertson. We met them huddled around a gas heater with their daughter and their 4-year-old granddaughter. It could take another 10 days before their power is restored.
Do you think you can make it another 10 days?
Oh, we don't have a choice.
About 36,000 homes and businesses in Mississippi began a second week without electricity. A sustained cold snap has delayed repairs to damaged power lines and utility poles. Hard-hit Nashville, Tennessee suffered its largest outage ever. At its peak, over 230,000 were affected. With thousands of customers still in the dark, Nashville Electric Service's response to the storm is now being investigated by a newly formed city commission.
We want to see not just where they went wrong and what they can do better the next time. We also want people to be held accountable.
It's a similar situation farther south in Oxford, Mississippi, where Northeast Mississippi power crews are working rain or shine to turn the lights back on for more than 7,000 customers.
So big down trees like this?
Yeah.
This is one of the challenges you're facing?
For sure. Our crews are having to cut their way into some neighborhoods to even be able to work on the power.
And nationwide, over 100 people have died since last week. Some have froze to death. So these power restoration efforts are life-saving. Tony?
Katie Weiss. Katie, thank you very much. Here in the east, the deep freeze is not letting up. In fact, another Arctic blast is on the way. Rob Marciano is back on the Hudson River tonight in Manhattan, watching as the ice floats by. Rob, good evening.
Hi, Tony. We got a couple degrees above freezing, but it didn't help melt any of this ice here on the Hudson. And we now have precip falling across the hard-hit areas of the Mid-South. So we want to show it to you on the radar. We've got snow that's strewing across the Ohio River Valley, including parts of Kentucky, 1 to 4 inches there from Louisville to Lexington to Charleston. And then a little bit farther south over Nashville, that's mostly rain into Mississippi. That's the good news. We're looking at rain with temperatures well above the freezing mark. We've layered in that blue. That's where all the snow and ice cover is, deep in the Mississippi. Hopefully tomorrow some of that will be gone. So we'll take this warmer rain that will push tomorrow into North Carolina, which still has a huge amount of snow, hopefully melting a little bit of that there, and then eventually heading out to sea. But we got a second wave coming down, this one from Canada on Friday, which means it'll be colder with some snow. But the big story will be just how much colder it gets over the weekend. A huge impulse of Arctic air coming in, those deep blues and purples. You know what that means. We're talking about temperatures that will fall overnight into the teens and single digits across the northeastern quarter of the country. So the 34-degree heat wave we've had the past couple of days will be overcome tomorrow. Tony?
All right, Rob, thank you very much. The White House press secretary today called out the repeated criticism of ICE at the Grammy Awards, accusing celebrities of demonizing law enforcement from the safety of their gated communities. Meanwhile, relatives of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, both shot to death by federal agents last month, told their story in Washington today as their communities work to recover. Here's Nicole Skanga.
Testifying on Capitol Hill,
we're here to ask for your help.
Brothers of Renee Good, Brent and Luke Ganger, spoke out for the first time.
Her children were and are her heart.
Just outside Minneapolis, Brooklyn Park Mayor Hollis Winston says his city will take years to recover.
We will be grappling with this 5 to 10 years from now.
His police chief, Mark Bruley, says federal agents have also targeted his off-duty officers.
In one case, had guns drawn on them as a police officer with a child in their vehicle and demanded paperwork to prove that they were essentially a U.S. citizen.
Just 7 months ago, Bruley partnered with the FBI to probe the assassination of Minnesota's state speaker, Melissa Hortman, but says investigations into the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy could not be more different.
We know how to do it well with the federal government.
This is not that.
This is not that.
Minnesota Corrections Chief Paul Schnell says local authorities remain boxed out of the probe.
Are you confident in these investigations yet?
No. I think there is good reason for us to be concerned.
As immigration operations expand to new cities, Mayor Winston says the federal takeover of Minnesota is a cautionary tale for states across America.
If the argument can be used to do this within a state like Minnesota, it can be used anywhere in the country.
In their testimony today, Renee Good's family called the scenes playing out in Minneapolis surreal, Tony. Her brother, Luke Ganger, told lawmakers that while his family took some consolation early on that Renee's death could spur change nationwide, they've yet to see it so far. Tony?
Nicole, thank you very much. Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, why Artemis 2 will have to wait even longer to shoot for the moon. And Lindsey Vohn's badly injured knee, what she's saying about her Olympic run, still scheduled for Sunday. And later, a family stranded far out at sea, their only hope, their 13-year-old son. 4 astronauts will have to wait another month for a chance to become the first humans in their lifetime to fly around the moon because NASA is delaying the Artemis II mission, all because of a fuel leak. Mark Strassman is at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida with the latest.
On Launch Pad 39B, a recurring liquid hydrogen leak in the SLS rocket was the showstopper. Twice it interrupted the fueling rehearsal. Then the stubborn leak cut short the critical test altogether. Launching Artemis II will now slide to March.
This one caught us off guard, and the initial things that we were seeing, and the technical team felt like we either had some sort of misalignment or some sort of deformation or debris on the seal.
3 years ago, similar snags bit Artemis I. A series of leaks and other issues forced 4 separate fueling tests before the rocket was approved to fly.
And liftoff of Artemis I.
So this latest setback felt familiar.
We got some work we got to go do, and we're going to go do it.
When Artemis II does launch, over 10 days the crew will head roughly 250,000 miles to the moon, sling around its far side, and then return to Earth with a splashdown in the Pacific. The first time humans will leave low Earth orbit in more than a half century. We caught up with Charlie Blackwell Thompson, the launch director here. Her team is responsible for monitoring the rocket and capsule.
We have 500 launch commit criteria, which are our rules that we are go or no go.
The bottom line is you're not going to fly until you're ready.
We're not going to fly till we're ready. And the hardware will tell you when it's ready.
And Tony, with this latest leak, the hardware is saying it's not ready to fly yet. NASA hopes to fix the problem right on the pad and to launch for the moon as soon as March 6th. Tony?
Mark, thank you very much. Still ahead, the good stuff. A family stranded at sea, a mother's desperate choice, what her son did that saved them all. Chuck Negron, one of the most successful rockers of the late 60s and early 70s, died on Monday. As lead singer of Three Dog Night, he helped launch 21 straight top 40 hits, including One Is the Loneliest Number and Joy to the World. Then lost nearly everything to addiction with 36 failed stints in rehab, he said, until he got sober on the 37th in 1991. The band's unusual name, by the way, is a reference to sleeping with 3 dogs on an especially cold night. Chuck Negron was 83. Lindsey Vonn is back on her skis and going for gold, she says, despite tearing a knee ligament in that wipeout last week. She was already skiing with a partial replacement of her other knee, but, quote, "I'm still here," she said today. "I will not go home regretting not trying." The 41-year-old is in her 5th Olympics. And our nominee for cutest video of the day, a newborn giraffe finding its footing at the Melbourne Zoo in Australia. Mom giraffe named Iris is baby just 2 days old. No name yet. We'll keep you updated. Still ahead, an ordinary boy meets a death-defying challenge in the ocean. What he did next.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Teva in support of the mental health community.
We're back with the good stuff. A story of superhuman heroism from a 13-year-old boy and his mother who faced an impossible decision. The Appleby family, Mom Joanne and 13-year-old Austin and his 2 younger siblings, were on vacation in Western Australia, kayaking and paddleboarding when emergency crews say a sudden shift in the weather pulled them almost 9 miles offshore. As they drifted out, Joanne couldn't just leave the kids, but she had to do something. So she sent Austin for help. His kayak then capsized in the rough sea more than 2 miles from shore. So this 13-year-old then swam for hours, powered, he said, by prayer and happy thoughts.
I think at one point I was thinking of Thomas at Pay Attention and, trying to get the happy things in my head and trying to get through. Not the bad things that will distract me.
And when he reached land, he called for help, but he didn't know if his family was okay, while Joanne, his mom, didn't know if any of them were going to be okay until that moment when she spotted a rescue helicopter and then the rescue boat showed up.
We made it, we're alive, and that's the most important thing. And I have 3 babies.
all trails are made it. That was all that mattered.
We feel it too, Joanne. 3 cheers for Austin Appleby, the boy who wouldn't stop swimming, and maybe the answer next time someone wonders what's with teenagers these days. Just don't ask them to get off their phones or unload the dishwasher. That's another day in America. For all of us here at CBS News, I'm Tony DeCopel. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Good night.